Hi everyone, my name is Libni Joy and welcome to Hacks for Holistic Living. As always, we have some amazing guests for the day. Before I move on to our guests, I wanted to explain a few things about why we started this series. What is it that ultimately all of us want? To be able to lead a life that's abundant physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But how do we go about achieving this? That's one of the things that this series aims to address. In our last episode, we had a few leading educators from the country talking to our youth about how they can go about achieving a holistic life. In this series, we have some of the top business leaders joining us. They'll be talking to our entrepreneurs. When I say a holistic entrepreneur, there's probably a thin line between their life, love, work, and spirituality. Easier said than done, right? Let's hear from our guests what they have to say about this.
Our first guest is Mr. Arun Malhotra. Arun is an expert in the automobile domain, a corporate speaker, visiting faculty to leading B schools and engineering colleges both in India and the US, and he was also the former MD of Nissan India. After graduating from IIM Kolkata in 1983, Arun joined the automobile industry when it was at a nascent stage in India. For the last 3 decades, he's been a part of the growth of the Indian auto industry. He's worked with Bajaj Auto, Maruti Suzuki, Mahindra and Mahindra, and Nissan India. Arun is presently a strategic consultant and advisor in the auto domain and an independent director on the board of reputed companies. Welcome, Arun.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the generous introduction.
Our next guest for the day is Mr. Sushil Mehta. He's the managing director of Jain's Car Shop. Like Arun, Sushil is also another veteran in the auto industry. The Jains Group made its beginnings 3 decades ago in Chennai. At that time, they were dealing in 2- and 4-wheeler finance. Today, the company is a leading player in varied automobile businesses that include sales, service, spares, and support. The company is also diversified into non-banking financial services and real estate. One of the reasons we have Sushil on our show today is because he's also an ardent believer in breakthroughs. In fact, it's these breakthroughs that have shaped his life from one of mediocrity to someone worth sitting up and learning from. So we'll hear more about his breakthroughs a little later. For now, welcome Sushil.
Thank you, Libni.
And our next guest for the day is Megha Bajaj. Megha is the award-winning author of several books, including Thank You Cancer and I Inspire. Her recent book is called The Breakthrough. The book has become a national bestseller in just a month of its launch. Megha has also written more than 1,000 articles for well-known magazines and newspapers. Megha also runs online writing workshops for aspiring authors. She's been approached by several directors and producers to write film scripts too, but I think she's waiting for the right opportunity to put her words on the big screen. Welcome, Megha.
Thank you so much, Libni.
So yeah, like I said, our discussion today, the focus is actually on entrepreneurs. We thought, some of you could shed light on, what it is like to be an entrepreneur, to climb up that ladder and share some tips from your own lives too. So I'll start with Mr. Arun. What, according to you, is that one thing that you think entrepreneurs most need in today's time?
In today's time, you need an entrepreneur who has his feet strongly and firmly on the ground. That means he's in touch with zero ground reality. But along with that, he needs an ability to use both his eyes to look at the medium-term future, the long-term future, and to envision the future and envision the changing world. And based on the changing world, the person, the entrepreneur, is able to either identify opportunities, challenges, or maybe problems, what others can see but not evident to them, and act fast and act in a manner which helps them to resolve issues or to create new worlds. That's the one basic attribute. So present, feet firmly in the present, but eye to the future and continuously scanning the environment. And based on the signals they get, acting fast on it. That's the way I look as a good entrepreneur.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Sushil? Because you've been an entrepreneur yourself. What do you think, or rather, what is your biggest breakthrough as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, Libni, as Arun San was telling, basically he was trying to tell that the entrepreneur should be hands-on into the business. And he has to be futuristic. Today, as he's telling that so many things are happening, the world is totally moved into digital nowadays. The entrepreneur has to be futuristic. He has to change himself as per the changing time. And whereas, in short words, if I have to say that the entrepreneur, any individual who has the mantra, what next, what more, if he has that into his day-to-day living, I think he can have a series of big breakthrough. What he was and what he is today. In fact, if I have to tell what I was and what I am today, is actually a connection of series of breakthroughs. There are several breakthroughs, and that happen with your basic mindset of what next, what more, and you should be ready for the changing time. As far as if you say biggest breakthrough, I will say that the first breakthrough in my life as an entrepreneur is my diversification from automobile finance into a automobile dealer. Because during those days, the private financing, banking has come, and private finance interest rate was not affordable to many. And that was actually the change of people's mindset, and timely I have changed into that. And that was the birth of my baby Jane's Car Shoppe. And today, what I am today, it's purely because of that change. And I also believe, see, more than a breakthrough, it is basically the mindset of a people which makes him to have this breakthrough. As Arun San was telling, he has to be hands-on and he has to be ready for what is the changing time. And that happens only, in my case, if I have to tell that it has happened. I was a very introvert. Automobile finance is actually a very easy, comfortable, and very simple, easygoing life for me. I was operating from a 200 square feet of space, just a 3 supporting staff. Ground floor was the office, and upper floor was my residence. So what else you need? It was a very jolly go thing. And from jumping into a Jane's Car Shoppe with the highest rentals during those time, it was actually a challenging. But there was a passion. But there was a passion in me, and from introvert, I have changed to do this purely because of the mindset, which was actually created because of my connect with my guru. I feel everybody must have a life guru in their life, and like-minded aspirational people into their life. It's basically Buddham Saranam Gacchami and Sangam Saranam Gacchami. So I was in connect with my guru, who has infused aspirations into my life. Then I started thinking, I have to do something. I should have my own name. I should have my own address. And that has led to these thoughts, and that has led to Jane's Car Shoppe. And after that, it's series of things happened. I jumped into new car. Arun San was the first guy who has made me to enter into new car business in 2008. In under his leadership, I got Mahindra and Mahindra dealerships, and today we have around 10 places that dealerships, and more than 250 people I am able to employ through that dealerships.
An amazing journey.
And from 3 people to 700 people. It's all basically because of that. So it's a series of breakthrough, and biggest breakthrough or a U-turn I feel is my changing into automobile dealer, then financing.
Okay. That's a nice one to hear the entire journey itself. And Megha, in fact, you've had your new book launch recently, which also captures the lives of so many entrepreneurs. So the book in itself, how does it address the entrepreneur community?
I think all the stories, are about entrepreneurs and of course people who are also working as employees in the corporate background. But like Sushil said, that it's not about, the breakthrough per se, it's about what goes through their mind. So hearing the mindset of these 11 people, each of them, Libini, who began the way Sushil said, literally with 3 people, this thing, there's actually someone who began his life in a chawl. And today he lives in the best house in Pune. He's the most renowned Pune builder. So just hearing about that entire journey can make someone to understand that how is it that people think during tough times. Because when things, or even actually when things go right, like, even Mr. Malhotra said, he said that you have to be so firmly rooted in the present and keep looking in the future. Now, this thought process as theory, as everything is very good, but when you're in that situation, can you do it and can you execute it makes all the difference. So I felt that when entrepreneurs read this book and read about this journey of 11 people, how at that crucial moment, they were able to take that right mindset, adopt that right attitude, and thereby create a breakthrough is what's going to inspire them. So it's not that these 11 individuals are chosen ones or they are specially gifted. It's just their ability of taking that situation, thinking right, feeling right, and executing and turning it in their favor. That's made all the difference. So in fact, I must add one little thing here that, when this entire lockdown happened, and I know Sushil's into cars and stuff like that. So I just asked him, I WhatsApped him one day and I said that, so I just want to know, how are you thinking through this period? And he said one line. He said, I always believe everything happens for the best. That's it. So even if this period is coming to, think, something good will come out of it. And I'm sure he'll use this also to create something phenomenal. So that's what I've learned, and that's what I want to kind of take to every reader out there, that breakthrough is a mindset and you can attract them into your life.
True. Very true. And coming back to you, Mr. Arun, you're someone who's actually reached the top of the corporate ladder. You've been the MD of Nissan. Through your journey, through your experiences, what do you think are some values that actually, will sustain entrepreneurs? Say 2 or 3 values that you can think of that, that might help them.
One is having a sense of urgency, even when there's no emergency.
Okay.
A lot of people, when there is a crisis, they will act very fast, they will do this thing. But when things are slightly okay, they will relax. And when I say relax, they will physically relax, mentally relax.
Yeah.
How do you have continuously a sense of urgency? Otherwise, what happens? You get into the comfort zone, and getting into comfort zone is one of the biggest problems which can happen. So, if you look at a very simple example, even if you watch a cricket match, even a team in Virat Kohli is playing the smallest match, or the match even when they are clearly winning, his focus, his intensity does not go down. So that is one very strong attribute, and I've seen it in leaders, sense of urgency when there is no emergency. Second is what Megha mentioned about, crisis brings the best out of people. I remember one case, and that is Sushil's case clearly. When there were floods in Chennai, and people said it's a big crisis, how will you repair, vehicles are flooded, this, that. He motivated, goaded, and led from the front that people who are in problem, whose vehicles are out of service or people vehicle not run, can we help them in their locations? So he turned this crisis into moving and helping people out. So he didn't look at, there were no immediate rewards because the effort and the money involved in it was much higher than, but the goodwill it earned him was phenomenal. So, that's the point is, in crisis, are you able to raise the bar?
Yeah.
This point, which clearly is that how do you ensure, how do you reinvent yourself? Today, one of the challenges of a lot of people is that they are very good in something, but then they will stick to it. I'll just take an example. I go into movies a lot. Sholay was the all-time hit. Ramesh Sippy, after Sholay, made Shaan. So he made the villain bigger, the hero bigger, the action bigger, but he did not reinvent himself. And Shaan, in spite of triple the budget, triple the focus, did not bring in. So you have to continuously keep on reinventing yourself according to the situation, according to the environment. You cannot rest on your past laurels. That's the sign of entrepreneur. Ki maine ye kiya. A lot of people say, sir, maine ye kiya tha, I did this, I did that, that succeeded. That is past. You can have some learning from the past.
What matters, yeah.
You cannot, make past as something. So question is of reinventing. It is also renaissance or reincarnation. They use this word. We believe in religion, people reincarnation. So how do you do it? And relearn things. Take in politics. Although politics is a very controversial topic. But you look at Arvind Kejriwal. Look at the way he used to speak 3 years back on television or audiences, and today way he speaks. He's become more cooler, calmer, he's more logical. He doesn't attack the opposition outright, word by word, doesn't abuse them. And he's relating to the. So he has reinvented himself. So success came to him in a particular way, but he realized for the future, if he keeps on repeating those traits, it will not lead to him. So he has reinvented himself. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but how do people reinvent themselves? That's an important. And then the third thing is there are certain basic syndromes which you have to avoid. And I'll name 2 syndromes. One is I call the Gungi Gudiya syndrome, which is like dumb doll syndrome. So the reference is to Madam Indira Gandhi when she became the Prime Minister. The opposition thought that she's become Prime Minister because of father, she was good looking, so they used to call her dumb doll. But what did the dumb doll do? She nationalized all the banks, she liberated, she abolished the privy purses, she liberated Bangladesh. So it was jumping to conclusions. Without applying your mind, you jump to conclusion hearsay. That's a syndrome to avoid. What is the most obvious? You think that's the most reality. But can you go deeper into it? And second is the Dhritarashtra syndrome, when you know what the reality is. And this is cricket animate Gavaskar, he said, do you look at the tiger? If you don't look at the tiger won't look at you. It doesn't happen in life. It is better you look at the tiger because there is a way of avoiding the tiger. So a lot of people have this Dhritarashtra syndrome. A lot of people say Dhritarashtra was a blind person. Yeah. He was physically, but he was blind mentally, that he knew what his son, the Kauravas, the Duryodhana was doing was wrong. But he still kept supporting them without knowing. He knew the reality. He was a very intelligent person. So that is the worst thing. You know reality, but you want to look at it. It's like the cricket ball, the bouncer, you want to duck away or not look at it. You won't run away. So facing something which is reality. And so these are the things. So there is a certain syndrome, there is a certain thing. And embracing new things. Moving out of comfort zone. There are certain things, certain principles, certain technologies will become redundant. Certain styles will become. But one thing which will always remain constant is the people connect. Because if you have the people connect, whether it's your employees, whether it's your business partners, whether it's your customers, you will gain. So people connect, old values of people connect, and financial prudence. Financial prudence doesn't mean conjuicy. Financial prudence, these will remain. So these are the traits, 2-3 traits that are positive and 2 traits I talked of which are syndromes you need to avoid. That's the way I look at it. And this is based on my experience when I see people who are successful. I've seen the most intelligent people, the most who had every resource in front of them, but still they collapsed. And I always talk of one concept. An entrepreneur, there is a Hindi term called Jagirdari, and there is Karam Bhumi. A Jagirdari is inherited, and Karam Bhumi is keeps acting day in day. The Jagirdars will disappear. They have disappeared because they live in the past. They live on past glory, or they live on their titles. They live on this thing. But Karam Bhumi are the persons, the people who live in the present, who focus on the present, who focus on the future, and who are not satisfied. So clearly, Karam Bhumi concept is applicable for entrepreneurs, and people who have the Jagir concept, Jagirdar, you've seen, they disappear. Look at the 20 top industrialists 30 years back in the country. 15 don't figure. I don't know, not right to name them on social media. They don't figure anywhere. They had everything going for them. They had right licenses, right products, right backgrounds, right financial strengths, right education. So that these are the way I look at it. Sorry, I've taken more time, but I feel very strongly on this.
That's a really valuable lesson. So, what about you, Sushil? Like any valuable lessons that you have learned along your journey as an entrepreneur?
Arun San has actually elaborated everything. I will just touch on a point which he has just touched a little: financial prudence. For me, see, finance is the backbone of any industry, any financial firm. I got this lesson in my early 20s from my dad, Om Prakash Mehta. When we used to tally cash daily, when we were into automobile finance, we used to day in, day out, day book, we used to tally and go. So one day, while tallying, there was a difference of rupees 10. So I was just I was not able to know where the 10 rupees is. I just told my dad, it's 10 rupees. I'm not able to get where it is. So it's a matter of 10 rupees. No, so we will just siphon it off and I have to go. My dad very coolly, he said, no, beta, it's not the question of 10 rupees. I know 10 rupees makes a meager difference, but there are chances that you would have missed 2 or more entries. And the sum total of that may be 10 rupees that we do not know. So it is better you please check your accounts properly. Think where you have given, because I was responsible for the entire day transactions. So please remember, maybe you would have forgotten 2-3 entries, which will affect, suppose if I have to give to somebody and if you have not noted, that will be a problem. So you must be very clear when you close the account, it has to tally, come what may. So that one big lesson I have learned, and from that day I know, okay, whatever it is, the finance has to be properly monitored. If you are able to have a control or have a same hands-on into the finance, that will give strength to your business. To the lesson I learned from my Guru Mahatriya, he said that it's a moral responsibility of every good human being to be rich. What happens? No, say I am good. Generally, you can hear people telling, "Bas yaar, dal roti mil gaya, bas ab main kyun bhagu? Why I should run? I have enough money." But that's wrong. If you have capability and if you can earn more, it is your moral responsibility to earn, because money in the hands of good human being goes into good causes. If I have more money, what I'll do, I will have dal roti, but the extra money I will divert into a hospital, to an educational institution, to some charity, or to support some other people. But suppose if the money is in bad person, it will go for destruction. So and that is the problem of every good human being. After some time he gets settles. No, I have enough money, I don't want to do anymore. That's wrong. You have to earn, not for you, but for several others. Today, I have around 700 people along with me. I was good enough there in Sokarpet. I'm telling you, it was very jolly. No pressure, no tension, easy. Residence is above. But I have jumped from 3 to now I'm responsible for 700 people. I have money which even my second, third generation will take care on. But I am happy that through me, 700 families are able to run their families. So that is one good thing I learned from my Mahatriya, that it's a responsibility, moral responsibility of every good human being to be rich. Third, same connected to money, because we are talking money. My uncle Rajendra R. Mehta, he said, money is important. What money can do, that money alone can do. But when it is compared with the relation comes on top priority. Relationship cannot be at the cost of money. Money is important, but relationship is at the top priority. So that because this is a very thin line. Because of money, we can see fights happening, brothers are not talking to each other, all those things are happening. Money is important. At the same time, we have relationship is on the top priority. So these 3 things, if we understand, I think at the entrepreneur, it's definitely they cannot go wrong anywhere.
True, very true. What about you, Megha? What do you think is the need of the hour for entrepreneurs?
I think firstly, everybody is an entrepreneur is one thing I realized, because I used to always call myself as a writer. I know myself all my life as an author, and I was very happy sitting in one room, writing away, feeling very happy with what I was creating. World was appreciating it. It was good enough. It's this period that taught me that I can't just wait and think like a writer. Like the breakthrough was ready and it was ready for launch, but how do we launch the book? Because people can't meet, you can't, do anything. So I could have waited and watched, and I could have thought that, okay, let everything open up and then we'll launch the book. It wouldn't have worked. So immediately, like an entrepreneur, in fact, learning from these 11 people, literally, I think they've grown me up, in that sense, to think a lot better and bigger. I just thought that why not have a virtual launch? Why is it that we always need to have a launch in a bookstore? So like Mr. Arun said, that you have to reinvent yourself. I think in that moment, I reinvented myself as an author or as an entrepreneur, and we decided to have a launch. Now, it so happened that we were able to actually have the world's biggest book launch, where close to 500,000 people attended the launch, versus a physical launch where it would have been about 300, 400 people, because that's geography specific. So here we had people from New York, people from here, there joining in. So just that ability to reinvent, and not see, oh, I'm an author, I've written a book, so I have to do it this way, change the whole mindset, and everything changed accordingly. So I think I would agree with the reinventing part is that something I have done, not just as an entrepreneur, but even as an author. And I think that's true for anyone, anywhere. Even if you're doing a corporate job, unless you keep reinventing yourself, you're not going to be better than the rest. So that's something. And again, I think the second point that Sushil said, that, about financial prudence and financial planning. There's this thing, like when I wanted to become an author, and my dad's from IIT, my mother's a lawyer, my sister's a doctor. So when I said I want to become a writer, they were like, that will be your hobby, but what work will you do? So I said, no, I want to become a writer. And they were like, no, beta, you're not understanding. वो तो तुम्हारा hobby है. Hobby ठीक है, पर करोगे क्या? पैसा कैसे कमाओगे? So, when I realized that when your passion and your profession meets, okay, and the meeting point can be how you again think wider. And today as an author, in no way am I, earning lesser than any person in a very high corporate job, because I've widened my imagination of an author. I don't just author, but I also teach other people. I also do this, I also do that. So I've broken that stereotype that writers don't get paid, and that I think is something that helped me a lot. So I think these two things I would agree with: reinventing and financial prudence, as well as ability to think, how is it that you can attract abundance, would help entrepreneurs significantly, especially during these times.
Definitely, yeah, that's so true, especially during these times, like you said. And coming back to, you've all, we've all come across so many entrepreneurs. So I want to know from each of you, anybody who's inspired you. First, you, Mr. Arun, like, any leaders that have inspired you, who you think the present entrepreneurs can actually emulate.
One entrepreneur I really admire is Mr. Azim Premji.
Okay.
I mean, he was from a business family, but his business was vegetable oils. His father died when he was young. He got into IT at a time when IT was thought it's a form of typing or something. Where is one getting into? He created an empire. But what he's not rested is, one thing is, he's giving 95% of his income, not to charity, but to reskilling India, improving health, education. He's giving back to society. That's something very great. So that's one entrepreneur I really admire, who has managed phenomenal success with strong moral values and the desire to give back to society what others don't have. So he's I really admire. But I want to take one more at the international level, Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's so many global giants in the auto industry, and people said nobody can challenge them. If you have to start a company, it'll take 20 years. This single man dream, passion, vision. He's created a company and created it for a product which people thought is not ready. The market is not ready for electric vehicles. And today the market valuation of that company is bigger than any other auto company.
Yeah.
And people who, whoever invested in this company, even 1 year back, when people said the share cannot rise, the share has gone up by 3.5 times. Phenomenal. And he's not talking of taking people to Mars on holiday trips. What Mars here? You will take. So, the limits are only in the sky. The limits are not in the mind. And what Megha said, I think very important thing which entrepreneurs is, you have to only follow your passion, your dream, your hobby. And if you combine it with hard work, you'll never work a single day in your life because you keep on enjoying. So what Megha is doing. So she said she's reached age. We have struggled 35 years to reach here. So that's you to learn on a separate level. So that's the way I look at it.
That's so true. What about you, Mr. Sushil? Like, you're also a believer in breakthrough. So that's why I'm asking. A book like Breakthrough, for instance, what are the kind of lessons that it can actually teach entrepreneurs,
This breakthrough book, I feel that this is actually a Bible and Quran to the budding entrepreneurs. So what is not there in that book? Everything is there. A person will get, you have to just connect with the book with the right query in your mind. And if you go through the book, you will get all the answers. In fact, all the 11 trailblazers, if you go through their life, they had all the struggles, all the challenges. But as Megha was telling, what was their thought process during those times? That has made all the difference.
True.
It's like learning from, and anybody who reads that, now they can easily relate with the people. It's actually happening in their life also. It's very normal, regular. It's learning from neighborhood type of. There were police cases, there were CBI raids, and there were people who were into educations and made educational as a big institution, and from a limited number of students to now into multi-thousand students they are reaching out. There were doctors, and they have reached out with several landmark institutions. Everything is there. One person is a global CEO and who went on to his passion, and now he's inspiring entrepreneurs. So if you give me a chance, or if given a chance, I will make this book as a curriculum to management business studies. It's everything.
Right.
It's one of the best book I have gone through, and of course, hats off to Megha. She has beautifully articulated the entire this thing. It's like a blockbuster movie going in front of, easy to connect, easy to understand, very inspiring, very inspiring. In fact, how a caterpillar can become a butterfly, you can understand from this book. Very inspiring.
Yeah. And Megha, any entrepreneurs who've inspired you?
A lot of them, and so there are international names and there are national names, but I'm actually going to talk about my 11 because I do feel that, when I'm an avid reader, so I love reading and I'll keep reading a lot. So I read about Steve Jobs, I read about this. I've loved the Mahatma Gandhi's Experiments with Truth. It's a book that shaped me so significantly. But every time I've read autobiographies, personally, or biographies, I've always felt that those people were very disconnected from me. I always felt that, okay, Steve Jobs, but I couldn't relate to his upbringing. I couldn't relate to a lot of things. It looked a little removed from me. When I met these 11 people, and I have not just met them, I lived with them. So one of the key things in the MOU itself is that I would be coming and living with you. I don't want to hear hearsay. I want to watch you. I want to observe you. I want to absorb you. I want to catch those messages which they're not talking, but they're living. How is it that they talk to even a helper? How is it that they talk to their driver? How do they relate with people? These are things they can't tell me about. I have to learn by watching. So when I was with these 11 people, the way I was able to absorb all of it, and because it's...
You went and lived with them, you stayed for a bit, and okay.
In the Indian context, like I could understand, okay, when I read about somewhere in the US, somewhere the economy, everything doesn't relate to me directly. Here I could see, like say for Sushil, immediately everybody may not have supported him when he wanted to take that leap of faith. But similar to me, like everyone didn't support me when I wanted to take up writing. I'm the first writer in my family. So, but yet to go ahead with it, what does it take? So when I was able to see their journeys, I was able to connect to so much that happened in my life. And also I was able to feel, oh, this relates to me. It felt more real. Like I'll always remember this scene, like Nitin Yati, he's that builder. So he's in a chawl and he's eating one piece of guava. Okay. Like he used to get 2 annas to come home from school. He'll not waste it on that bus. Rather, he'll buy that guava piece and he'll keep eating. And that lesson he connects to that, for me, always the experience is more important than money or comfort. So that experience of that guava piece was such a simple thing, but I'm able to relate to these streets. I'm able to relate to these experiences. I'm able to relate to when, Sushil talks about his chacha. I also have a chacha. So the journey of these 11 entrepreneurs went deeper into me, probably because it was relatable. I lived with them and it felt that they're not too far away. Like it didn't feel like the gap is from Earth to Moon. It felt okay, the gap is from Bombay to Delhi. I can do it. So they felt more real to me. And I want to reach Delhi, then I look for US, then I look for the next one. So in that sense, to me, really, these 11 have transformed my life and thinking. And in a year, I feel so much more expansion has just happened for me.
Okay. And I'm sure from all your tips, it will be a lot of lessons actually for entrepreneurs, be it financial prudence or, what you were talking about, having a futuristic view while being in the present. I'm sure a lot of takeaways from this session. Thank you all actually for joining. Thank you so much. Thanks to each one of you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.